Welcome to Love Unbound.
The champagne glass slipped from my fingers, shattering against the marble floor of the hotel ballroom. But the sound was nothing compared to the words I just heard floating through the crack in the bathroom door. "Trust me, guys, she's completely clueless." My husband Nathan's voice carried clearly over the party noise. "I can dump her anytime. She's useless to me anyway. All she does is sit at home while I make the real money." His coworkers laughed and I heard someone ask, "So when are you leaving her for Brittany?" "Soon," Nathan replied. "Very soon. Brittany's way better than Amara in every way. Smarter, prettier, more fun. And she doesn't ask stupid questions about where I spend my time." I stood frozen in the hotel hallway, my black dress suddenly feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. 3 years of marriage. 3 years of supporting him, cooking his meals, managing his schedule, and believing his lies about working late. 3 years of him telling me I wasn't smart enough to handle our finances, so I should let him take care of everything. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a contact I hadn't called in months. My college friend Rachel worked in the district attorney's office. She'd always told me if I ever needed help with anything legal to call her. "Rachel, it's Amara," I whispered into the phone, walking further away from the party. "Remember when you said if I ever found evidence of financial crimes to call you immediately? I think I have something big." "What kind of evidence?" Rachel's voice was sharp and professional. "Bank statements, credit card bills, receipts. Nathan's been hiding them from me, but I found copies when I was looking for our insurance papers last month. Thousands of dollars going to places that don't make sense. Hotel bills when he claimed to be at business conferences that I later found out didn't exist." "Amara, where are you right now?" "His company party at the Grand Hotel. My voice broke. "He just told his coworkers he's leaving me for his secretary and called me useless." "Listen to me carefully," Rachel said. "I need you to stay calm. Are there witnesses to what he just said?" "His whole department heard him." "Perfect. I'm making some calls right now. Is his boss there?" "Yes, Mr. Harrison is here with his wife." "Good. Don't go back in there yet. Give me 5 minutes." I hung up and leaned against the hotel wall, trying to process what was happening. Nathan had been cheating on me with Brittany, his 24-year-old secretary. The woman who answered his office phone when I called, who scheduled his appointments, who knew everything about his business dealings. My phone buzzed. Rachel again. "It's done," she said. "Mr. Harrison is about to get some very interesting information about your husband's expense reports and bank transfers. The kind that could land someone in federal prison." "What do you mean?" "Those hotel bills and mysterious transactions you found? They match exactly with evidence we've been building in an embezzlement case. Nathan's been stealing from his company for months and we've been watching him." I felt like I couldn't breathe. "He's been stealing?" "We estimate around $200,000 so far. Money that should have gone to employee bonuses and company investments. Money he's been using to finance his affair and probably planning to use to start a new life with this Brittany person." Suddenly the ballroom doors burst open. I could see inside as Mr. Harrison stormed across the room, his face red with anger. He grabbed Nathan's arm roughly, pulling him away from his laughing group of coworkers. "What did you do?" Mr. Harrison screamed, his voice carrying over the music and conversation. The entire party went silent, all eyes turning toward them. Nathan's face went white. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "Sir, I don't understand." "Don't lie to me," Mr. Harrison shouted. "I just got a call from our accounting department. They've been investigating discrepancies in the books, and your name is all over the missing money." I watched from the doorway as Nathan's world collapsed in real time. His coworkers, the same ones who had been laughing with him about dumping his useless wife just minutes ago, now stared at him in shock and disgust. Brittany appeared at Nathan's side, her hand on his arm. "Baby, what's happening?" she asked in her high-pitched voice. "Get away from him." Mr. Harrison yelled at her. "You're fired too. Both of you are finished." Security guards appeared as if from nowhere. I realized Rachel must have coordinated this perfectly. As they escorted Nathan and Brittany toward the exit, Nathan's eyes found mine across the crowded room. The look on his face changed from panic to disbelief. He mouthed the word, "How?" but I just stared back at him with no expression at all. "Ma'am?" One of the security guards had approached me. "Are you Mrs. Amara Collins?" "Yes." "The authorities would like to speak with you about your husband's financial activities. They believe you may have been a victim of financial fraud as well." As I followed the guard toward the hotel lobby, I heard the party guests whispering behind me. Words like embezzlement and affair, and prison time floated through the air. 3 hours ago, I had been the naive wife who didn't understand business. Now I was the key witness in a federal crime case. 3 hours ago, Nathan thought he could dump me whenever he wanted because I was useless to him. He was about to find out just how useful I could be to the prosecutors who were going to put him behind bars. The police station was nothing like what I'd seen in movies. The fluorescent lights were harsh and bright, making everything look cold and sterile. Detective Morrison, a woman about my age with short gray hair, sat across from me at a metal table with a thick folder between us. "Mrs. Collins, I want you to understand that you're not in any trouble," she said gently. "We believe you've been a victim in this case. But we need your help to understand the full scope of your husband's activities." I nodded, still feeling like I was in some kind of dream. 6 hours ago, I'd been getting dressed for a company party. Now I was helping build a criminal case against my own husband. "Can you tell me about your household finances? Who handled the bills, the bank accounts, investment decisions?" "Nathan did everything," I said. "He told me I didn't understand business stuff, that I should focus on keeping the house nice and supporting his career. He said women weren't naturally good with numbers and I should trust him to handle our financial future." Detective Morrison wrote something in her notepad. "Did you ever see bank statements or credit card bills?" "No, everything was paperless. He said it was more environmentally friendly. All the passwords were saved on his computer, and he said there was no need for me to worry about any of it." "What about major purchases? Vacations, jewelry, expensive dinners?" I thought about it carefully. Now that you mention it, there were things that seemed strange. He bought me a very expensive necklace for our anniversary last year, but he seemed nervous about it. He kept asking if I loved it, if it was worth the money. I thought he was just being sweet. "Anything else?" "He took weekend trips that he said were for work, but when I called the office, they didn't know anything about them. And there were charges on our joint credit card for restaurants I'd never been to, flowers I never received. When I asked about them, he said they were business expenses for clients." Detective Morrison slid a stack of papers across the table. "These are bank records we obtained with a warrant. I want you to look at them and tell me what you recognize." My hands trembled as I flipped through the pages. Transaction after transaction for amounts I'd never seen before. Hotels and cities Nathan had never mentioned visiting. Expensive jewelry stores, fancy restaurants, even what looked like rent payments to an apartment complex across town. "I don't understand any of this," I said. "This money was supposed to be going into our savings account for the house we wanted to buy." "Mrs. Collins, your husband has been systematically stealing from his employer and using that money to finance a second life. The apartment rental payments? That's where he's been living with Ms. Brooks, his secretary." The room started spinning. "Living with her? But he comes home every night." "Not every night. According to our surveillance, he's been splitting his time between 2 households for the past 8 months. The expensive purchases, the hotel stays, the restaurant bills, all of it was being funded by money stolen from Harrison Industries." I stared at the papers, trying to make sense of the numbers. "How much money are we talking about?" "So far, we can prove he stole $247,000. But we think there's more." My stomach dropped. "What happens to me? To our house, our joint accounts?" "That's where it gets complicated," Detective Morrison said. "Some of this stolen money went into your joint accounts. Legally, that makes those accounts part of the criminal proceeds. You'll need a lawyer to help sort out what you can keep." "I can't afford a lawyer. Nathan always said lawyers were too expensive, that we should handle things ourselves." "Mrs. Collins, there are legal aid services that can help you. But first, we need to secure all the evidence we can. Do you have access to his home office, his computer, any filing cabinets?" "Yes, but he always kept that room locked when he wasn't in there." Detective Morrison smiled for the first time since we'd started talking. "Do you know where he keeps the key?" 2 hours later, I was back at the house I'd shared with Nathan for 3 years, but now it felt like a crime scene. Detective Morrison and 2 other officers followed me through the rooms I'd cleaned and decorated, looking at everything like it might be evidence. Nathan's office was exactly as he'd left it that morning. His computer was still on, showing his email inbox. The filing cabinet was unlocked. He must have been in a hurry to get to the party and forgot to secure it. "Jackpot," one of the officers said, pulling out folder after folder of documents. Bank statements, receipts, printed emails, even photos of Nathan and Brittany on trips I'd never known about. As they worked, I walked through our bedroom, our kitchen, our living room. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt real anymore. The expensive coffee maker Nathan had surprised me with last Christmas stolen money. The new furniture in our living room stolen money. Even the flowers he brought me last week were probably paid for with stolen money. My phone rang. It was my sister Denise. Girl, I've been calling you all night. Someone posted on social media that Nathan got arrested at his company party. Please tell me that's not true. I walked out to our back porch away from the police officers. It's true, Denise. It's all true. He's been cheating on me and stealing money from his job. Oh my God, Amara. Are you okay? Do you need me to come over? I don't even know if I'll be able to stay in this house. The detective said some of our money might be considered stolen property. You're coming to stay with me, Denise said firmly. Right now. Pack a bag and come to my house. We'll figure out everything else tomorrow. As I packed my clothes, I could hear the police officers in Nathan's study, talking about evidence and criminal patterns. His whole life had been a lie, and I'd been living inside that lie without knowing it. But the strangest part was how I felt. I'd expected to be devastated, crying, heartbroken. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: clarity. For the first time in my marriage, I knew exactly what was really happening. For the first time in 3 years, nobody was lying to me, manipulating me, or treating me like I was too stupid to understand my own life. Nathan thought I was useless to him. He was about to discover just how wrong he was. The phone rang at 6 in the morning. I'd been awake anyway, lying on Denise's guest room bed and staring at the ceiling. When I saw Nathan's name on the screen, my first instinct was to answer it like I always did. Instead, I turned the phone off. Smart girl, Denise said from the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. Let him sit in that jail cell and think about what he's done. The local news was already covering the story. Local businessman arrested for embezzling nearly $250,000, the anchor said over a picture of Nathan being led away in handcuffs. Nathan Collins worked for Harrison Industries for 5 years before allegedly stealing company funds to finance an extramarital affair. I turned off the TV. I can't watch this. You don't have to watch it, but you need to face it, Denise said gently. That man destroyed your life, Amara. He lied to you, cheated on you, and stole money while making you feel like you weren't smart enough to handle your own finances. My phone buzzed with a text message. Then another. And another. I turned it back on to find dozens of messages from people I hadn't heard from in months. I saw the news. Are you okay? Girl, I always knew something was wrong with that man. If you need anything, just call. But there were other messages too. From Nathan's family. From his friends. Some of them were supportive, but others made my blood boil. Nathan says this is all a misunderstanding. You need to stand by your husband. Family fights together. Don't let them railroad Nathan. Are you sure you didn't know about the money? Wives usually know when something's wrong. That last message came from Nathan's mother. The woman who'd told me at our wedding that she'd never thought Nathan would find someone suitable to marry. I was about to respond when Denise took the phone from my hands. No, she said. Don't you dare defend yourself to those people. Don't you dare explain anything or justify anything. You are the victim here. At 10 o'clock, I had an appointment with Jennifer Walsh, the lawyer Rachel had recommended. Her office was in a tall glass building downtown, the kind of place that used to intimidate me because Nathan always said lawyers were out to take advantage of people. Mrs. Collins, Jennifer said, shaking my hand firmly. I've reviewed the police report and the initial evidence. I want you to know that you have legal options, and none of them require you to stay married to a man who defrauded you. Defrauded me? He stole money and put some of it into accounts with your name on them, making you an unknowing accomplice. He used your joint credit cards to finance his affair, making you responsible for debts you didn't know about. He lied to you about your financial situation, preventing you from making informed decisions about your own life. That's fraud. Jennifer spread papers across her desk. Here's what we know so far. Nathan stole $247,000 from his employer. Of that money, approximately $89,000 went into your joint savings account, $34,000 was spent on rent and expenses for the apartment he shared with Ms. Brooks, $67,000 was spent on travel, entertainment, and gifts for Ms. Brooks, and the rest went to various other expenses related to maintaining his double life. The numbers were staggering. What does this mean for me? It means you're entitled to divorce him and claim the legitimate assets you brought into the marriage plus spousal support. It also means the prosecutor's office will probably want to make a deal with you, cooperation in exchange for immunity from any financial charges. What kind of cooperation? Testimony about his behavior, access to any evidence you might have at home, testimony about how he controlled your access to financial information. The prosecutor wants to prove that Nathan is a manipulative criminal who systematically deceived everyone around him. I thought about the years of Nathan telling me I wasn't smart enough for business, wasn't good with numbers, should focus on being a supportive wife instead of worrying about money. When do we start? By afternoon, Jennifer had filed for legal separation and begun the process of freezing our joint assets. She'd also arranged for me to move back into our house. Nathan was in jail and wouldn't be getting bail anytime soon. The beauty of this situation, Jennifer explained as we drove to the house, is that Nathan's criminal behavior makes your divorce case very straightforward. No judge is going to side with a convicted felon over his defrauded wife. Convicted? He hasn't been convicted yet. Trust me, with this much evidence he will be. The only question is whether he'll take a plea deal or go to trial. Walking back into our house felt surreal. Everything looked exactly the same, but now I knew the truth behind every purchase, every improvement, every gift Nathan had given me. It was all paid for with stolen money. I started in his office, looking through the remaining files the police hadn't taken as evidence. What I found made me sick to my stomach. Credit card statements showing charges for expensive lingerie I'd never received. Hotel bills for romantic getaways I'd never been on. Even receipts for couples counseling sessions. Apparently, Nathan and Brittany had been working on their relationship while he was lying to me every single day. But the worst discovery was a folder labeled life insurance and wills. Inside, I found a document Nathan had signed just 2 months ago, changing the beneficiary on his life insurance policy from me to Brittany Brooks. My hands shook as I called Jennifer. He was planning to leave me anyway, I said. He changed his life insurance to list her as the beneficiary. That's actually good news for us, Jennifer said. It proves premeditation. It shows that he's been systematically planning to abandon you while stealing money to support another woman. This makes our case even stronger. That evening, as I sat in our living room surrounded by evidence of Nathan's lies, my phone rang again. This time it was Nathan's sister, Rebecca. Amara, please tell me you're going to bail Nathan out. He's family. He stopped being my family the moment he decided to steal money and cheat on me, I said calmly. But you took vows. For better or worse, in sickness and in health. Rebecca, did you know he was cheating on me? Silence. Did you know he was living with another woman and spending stolen money on her? More silence. Did you know he changed his life insurance to make her the beneficiary instead of me, his legal wife? Amara, family problems should stay in the family. I hung up the phone and blocked her number. Nathan had built his whole life on lies and manipulation. He'd convinced me I was too stupid to handle money, too naive to understand business, too weak to survive without him. Tomorrow I was going to start proving him wrong. The morning sun streamed through the windows of what used to be our bedroom. I'd spent the night there alone for the first time in 3 years, and surprisingly, I'd slept better than I had in months. My phone had 17 missed calls from Nathan's family and friends. I deleted all of them without listening. At 9 a.m., I was back in Jennifer's office with a box of documents I'd found hidden in Nathan's closet. Bank statements from accounts I didn't know existed, emails between Nathan and Brittany planning their future together, and most shocking of all, a real estate contract for a house in Florida that Nathan had apparently planned to buy with the stolen money. This is incredible evidence, Jennifer said, flipping through the papers. He wasn't just having an affair, he was planning to disappear with this woman and start over with stolen money. There's more, I said, pulling out a handwritten list in Nathan's writing. Look at this. Jennifer read the list aloud. Divorce Amara, make sure she can't get alimony. Sell house before she knows about it. Transfer remaining money to offshore account. Move to Florida with B. Change name if necessary. He wrote down his plan to defraud you, Jennifer said with amazement. This is like a confession letter. Most criminals try to hide their intentions, but Nathan wrote down exactly how he planned to destroy your life. That afternoon, I had my first meeting with the federal prosecutor handling Nathan's case. Sarah Chen was a sharp woman in her 40s who treated Nathan's crimes like they were personal insults to her sense of justice. Mrs. Collins, your husband's theft wasn't just about money, she explained. He systematically manipulated and deceived you while committing federal crimes. We want to make sure he pays for all of it. What does that mean for me? It means we're going to offer him a choice: plead guilty and serve his time, or go to trial and face the possibility of 20 years in federal prison. Either way, part of his sentence will include paying restitution to both his employer and to you personally for the financial damage he caused to your life. After the meeting, I drove around town with no particular destination in mind. I passed the restaurant where Nathan and I had our first date, the church where we got married, the bank where he'd convinced me to let him handle all our finances, because he was better with numbers. I ended up at the coffee shop where I used to meet my friend Melissa before Nathan convinced me she was a bad influence, who was jealous of our marriage. Melissa was there, sitting at our old table working on her laptop. When she saw me, her face lit up with concern and relief. Amara. Oh my God, I've been so worried about you. I saw the news about Nathan. Are you okay? I sat down across from her, and for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I felt like I could breathe normally. I'm better than okay, I said, surprising myself with how true that felt. I'm free. Melissa reached across the table and took my hand. I wanted to call you so many times over the past year. But Nathan made it clear I wasn't welcome in your life anymore. What do you mean? He told me you thought I was trying to break up your marriage. He said you were happy with your life and didn't need friends who filled your head with feminist ideas about independence. I felt sick. I never said any of that. I missed you. I missed all of my friends. We missed you too. We all knew something was wrong, but Nathan was always there, always controlling the conversation, always explaining why you couldn't do things or go places or make your own decisions. As we talked, I realized how much of my life Nathan had slowly taken away from me. My friends, my hobbies, my career ambitions, even my confidence in my own intelligence and judgment. Melissa, can I ask you something? Do you remember when I used to do graphic design work? Before I got married? Are you kidding? You were amazing. You had that freelance business and clients who loved your work. You were talking about starting your own design company. Nathan told me I wasn't good enough to make it on my own. He said I should focus on supporting his career instead of chasing unrealistic dreams. Melissa's face hardened. Amara, you were incredibly talented. You had more creativity and business sense than half the people I know who run successful companies. That evening, I sat in Nathan's office and opened his computer. For the first time in our marriage, I had access to everything. His email, his bank accounts, his files, his whole digital life. What I found made me realize just how calculated his manipulation had been. Emails to Brittany where he mocked me. Amara still believes I'm working late. She's so naive it's almost cute. Messages to his friends. Marriage is the perfect cover for a guy like me. Amara handles all the domestic stuff while I live my real life. But most devastating were the emails between Nathan and his brother, discussing their plan to manage Amara's expectations about money and career opportunities. Women like Amara need structure, Nathan had written. If you give them too much independence, they start thinking they can do everything themselves. Better to keep her focused on being a good wife. I printed every single email. By the time I went to bed that night, I had created a comprehensive file of Nathan's deception and manipulation. Not just the financial crimes, but the systematic psychological abuse he'd used to control me. Tomorrow I was going to start rebuilding the life he tried to destroy. I was going to prove that everything he'd said about me was a lie. I was going to become the woman I'd always been, before Nathan convinced me I was somebody else. I woke up before my alarm clock for the first time in years. There was something different about today, an energy I hadn't felt since before Nathan convinced me to put my dreams on hold to support his career. My first stop was the storage unit where I'd kept all my graphic design equipment and portfolio samples. Nathan had insisted I store everything there because we needed the space for more important things, but really he just wanted to make sure I couldn't easily access the tools of my trade. Opening that storage unit was like finding buried treasure. My professional camera, my graphics tablet, my portfolio of work from before my marriage, it was all there, waiting for me. Back at the house, I set up a temporary office in the guest bedroom. Within an hour, I had updated my portfolio website and started reaching out to former clients. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Amara, we wondered what happened to you, wrote Patricia, who owned a small marketing agency. Are you available for freelance work? We have 3 projects that would be perfect for you. I heard through the grapevine that you might be available again, came another message. We've been looking for a designer with your style for months. By lunchtime, I had inquiries about 6 different projects and 2 offers for full-time positions. Nathan had told me I wasn't good enough to make it on my own. He'd been lying about that too. At 2 p.m., I had a meeting at Creative Solutions, a design firm downtown that had offered me a position as a senior graphic designer. The salary was more than I'd ever made before, more than Nathan had ever allowed me to think I was worth. We've been following your work for years, the creative director James told me. We always wondered why you disappeared from the freelance scene. Personal circumstances, I said diplomatically. Well, we're thrilled you're available now. When can you start? Monday. That evening, I called my sister to share the good news. Amara, I'm so proud of you, Denise said. You're like a completely different person than you were a week ago. I'm not different, I realized. I'm just myself again. Meanwhile, Nathan's situation was getting worse by the day. Jennifer called to update me on his legal troubles. He's been denied bail, she said. The judge decided he was a flight risk because of the evidence showing he was planning to flee to Florida. Also, Brittany Brooks has been fired from her job and is facing her own legal troubles for helping Nathan hide the stolen money. Has she tried to contact me? Actually, yes. Her lawyer called my office asking if you'd be willing to testify on her behalf, to say she was also a victim of Nathan's manipulation. I laughed out loud. She wants me to help her? I told her lawyer that you wouldn't be assisting in her defense in any way. You're the victim here, not her accomplice. Good. What about Nathan? Has he tried to contact me? He's been calling my office daily, begging me to convince you to visit him in jail. He claims he wants to apologize and explain everything. What did you tell him? That you're not interested in his explanations, apologies, or manipulation tactics. That weekend, I started the process of completely redesigning my life. I changed all the passwords Nathan had controlled. I opened my own bank account with a different institution. I even bought a new phone with a new number that only my trusted friends and family knew. Most importantly, I started planning my future. I created a vision board with pictures of the design studio I wanted to open, the house I wanted to buy with my own money, the trips I wanted to take as an independent woman. Nathan had convinced me I needed him to survive. He was about to discover that the opposite was true. He'd been holding me back from becoming the successful person I was always meant to be. On Sunday, I got a call from Rachel, my friend at the DA's office. Amara, I have some news about Nathan's case. Are you sitting down? What happened? He's agreed to plead guilty to all charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. 8 years in federal prison, plus full restitution to you and his employer. 8 years. Nathan would be in prison for 8 years. How do you feel about that? Rachel asked. I thought about it carefully. I feel like justice is being served. And I feel like I have 8 years to build an amazing life without him trying to interfere with it. There's one more thing, Rachel said. As part of his plea agreement, he's required to sign divorce papers with no contest. He can't fight you on anything: division of assets, spousal support, anything. So I'm free. You're completely free. That night, I sat in my backyard and made a list of everything I wanted to accomplish in the next year. Start my design business. Buy a house. Take a vacation to Europe. Learn a new language. Maybe even start dating again when I was ready. Nathan had tried to make me believe I was nothing without him. Instead, he'd given me the chance to prove I was everything without him. The best revenge wasn't anger or hatred. The best revenge was success. The courthouse was busier than I'd expected. Jennifer walked beside me, carrying a briefcase full of evidence that would officially end my marriage to Nathan and secure my financial future. Remember, she said as we climbed the steps, this is just a formality at this point. Nathan already agreed to everything in his plea deal. He can't contest anything. Inside the courtroom, I saw Nathan for the first time since the night of his arrest. He looked smaller somehow, wearing an orange jumpsuit instead of the expensive suits he used to insist on buying with stolen money. When he saw me, he tried to catch my eye, but I looked straight ahead. His lawyer, a tired-looking public defender, shuffled papers nervously. Brittany was nowhere to be seen apparently. She was dealing with her own legal problems and couldn't afford to take time off work to support the man who'd ruined both their lives. Judge Martinez reviewed the divorce settlement with careful attention to detail. Mrs. Collins, she said, according to this agreement, you'll receive the marital home free and clear of any mortgage debt. You'll also receive $150,000 in restitution payments from Mr. Collins' future earnings, to be paid during and after his incarceration. Is this acceptable to you? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Collins, the judge turned to Nathan. Do you understand that by agreeing to these terms, you're giving up any claim to property acquired during your marriage? This includes the house, the furniture, the vehicles, and any retirement accounts that weren't directly funded by stolen money. Nathan's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, Your Honor. And you understand that you're required to pay spousal support of $2,000 per month for 3 years, beginning immediately upon your release from prison? Yes, Your Honor. Judge Martinez signed the final paperwork with a decisive flourish. This divorce is granted. Mrs. Collins, you're free to resume using your maiden name if you choose, and you have no further legal obligations to Mr. Collins. As we left the courtroom, Nathan called out behind me. Amara, please. Can we just talk for 5 minutes? I kept walking. Amara, I know I made mistakes, but we can work this out. I still love you. Jennifer put her hand on my arm, guiding me toward the exit. Don't engage with him. There's nothing he can say that you need to hear. But Nathan's voice grew more desperate. You don't understand the pressure I was under. The company was demanding impossible results. I only took the money because I was trying to build a future for us. I stopped walking and turned around. For the first time in weeks, I looked directly at my ex-husband. Nathan, I said calmly, you told your coworkers I was useless and you could dump me anytime. You spent months planning to abandon me and start over with another woman. You systematically lied to me about our finances while stealing money to pay for your affair. There is no version of this story where you were protecting me or building a future for us. His face crumpled. But I never meant for it to go this far. I got in over my head and... You wrote down your plan to defraud me, I interrupted. You changed your life insurance to make her the beneficiary instead of me. You convinced me I was too stupid to handle my own money while you were stealing from your employer. Nothing about this was an accident. The courtroom had emptied except for us and the security guards who were waiting to escort Nathan back to jail. His lawyer had already left. Amara, please, Nathan begged. I know I hurt you, but we took vows. For better or worse. In sickness and in health. We can get through this together. Nathan, I said, feeling completely calm for the first time in years, you broke those vows the moment you decided I wasn't worth telling the truth to. You broke them when you chose to steal money instead of talking to me about our financial problems. You broke them when you started living with another woman while lying to my face every single day. But I love you. No, you don't. You loved having someone to control and manipulate. You loved having someone to clean your house and manage your schedule while you lived a secret life. You loved having someone naive enough to believe your lies. But you never loved me, the real me, with my own thoughts and dreams and abilities. Nathan looked like he was about to argue, but I wasn't finished. The woman you thought you married, the weak, dependent, naive woman who needed you to survive, she never existed. You created her by systematically destroying my confidence and isolating me from my friends and career. But that woman is gone now. I'm back to being who I really am. And who is that? Nathan asked bitterly. Someone who's too smart to ever trust you again. The security guard stepped forward, indicating it was time for Nathan to return to his cell. As they led him away, he called over his shoulder one more time. You'll never find anyone who loves you like I do. I almost laughed. Nathan, you're absolutely right. I'll never find anyone who loves me like you do. And that's exactly what I want. Outside the courthouse, Jennifer and I stood on the steps in the afternoon sunshine. How do you feel? She asked. Free, I said. For the first time in years, I feel completely free. My phone buzzed with a text message from my new boss at Creative Solutions. How did everything go at court today? We're all rooting for you here. I typed back, all finished. I'll be in tomorrow morning, ready to start fresh. As Jennifer and I walked toward our cars, she handed me a final folder of paperwork. These are copies of everything for your records, she said. The divorce decree, the restitution order, the restraining order that prevents Nathan from contacting you directly for the next 5 years. Restraining order? Standard procedure in cases involving financial fraud and emotional manipulation, Jennifer explained. The court recognizes that victims of this type of crime need protection from further harassment. That evening, I celebrated my freedom with Denise and Melissa at a restaurant Nathan had always said was too expensive for people like us. We ordered the most expensive wine on the menu and toasted to new beginnings. To Amara, Melissa raised her glass, who proved that the best revenge is living well. To justice, Denise added. To freedom, I said, clinking my glass against theirs. As we talked and laughed, I realized that Nathan had been right about one thing: I would never find anyone who loved me like he did. I would find someone who loved me better. Someone who respected me enough to tell me the truth. Someone who saw my strength instead of trying to destroy it. But first, I was going to enjoy being single, successful, and completely in control of my own life. The revenge I dreamed of wasn't about making Nathan suffer. It was about proving that everything he believed about me was wrong. The morning news was playing softly in the background as I got ready for another day at Creative Solutions. I'd been there for 2 months now, and my confidence was growing stronger every single day. Nathan Collins was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for embezzling nearly $250,000 from his former employer, the news anchor announced. Collins must also pay full restitution to both Harrison Industries and his ex-wife. I turned off the TV. I didn't need to hear about Nathan anymore. His legal troubles were behind me, and I was focused on building my future. At work, I was putting the finishing touches on a marketing campaign for a major client when my phone rang. It was Jennifer. Amara, I have some interesting news. she said. Brittany Brooks just called my office. What did she want? She's facing serious financial problems since losing her job and getting blacklisted in the industry. Apparently, no one wants to hire someone who was involved in an embezzlement scheme. She's about to lose her apartment, and her lawyer fees have wiped out her savings. Okay, I said, not sure why Jennifer was telling me this. She wants to meet with you. I almost dropped the phone. She wants to what? She claims she has information that might help you recover more of the stolen money. Her lawyer thinks if she cooperates with you, it might help her case when she goes to trial next month. Jennifer, please tell me you told her no. I told her I'd discuss it with you, but that you were under no obligation to help her in any way. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. The answer is no. Absolutely not. I don't want to see her, talk to her, or help her with anything. That's what I hoped you'd say. I'll let her lawyer know. An hour later, my assistant knocked on my office door. Amara? There's a woman here to see you. She says it's personal and urgent. My stomach dropped. What's her name? Brittany Brooks. I took a deep breath. Please tell her I'm busy and ask her to leave. If she refuses, call building security. But 5 minutes later, my assistant was back. She won't leave. She says she'll wait all day if necessary. Security is aware of the situation. I was furious. After everything she'd done helping Nathan steal money, participating in his lies, knowing he was married while she lived with him, now she had the audacity to show up at my workplace? Send her up, I said finally. But ask James to stay nearby in case I need help. Brittany looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes were wrinkled, and she had dark circles under her eyes. She was nothing like the polished, confident woman I'd seen hanging on Nathan's arm at company events. Amara, thank you for seeing me, she said, sitting down across from my desk without being invited. I didn't agree to see you, I said coldly. I agreed to tell you to leave my workplace and never contact me again. Please, just 5 minutes. I know you have no reason to help me, but I have information about money Nathan hid that even the prosecutors don't know about. I don't care. There's $50,000 in a safety deposit box at First National Bank. Nathan opened it under a fake name, but I have the key and the documentation. If you help me with my legal situation, I'll give you everything. I leaned back in my chair and studied her face. She looked desperate, defeated, and completely different from the confident woman who'd thought she was stealing my husband along with his money. Brittany, let me make sure I understand this correctly, I said slowly. You want me, the woman whose husband you helped steal money from, whose marriage you participated in destroying, to help you avoid the consequences of your crimes? It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she said, tears starting to form in her eyes. Nathan told me he was already divorced. He said you two had been separated for months and the paperwork was just taking time to process. That's a lie. I know that now. But at the time I believed him. He was so convincing, so charming. He made me feel like I was the love of his life. The same way he made me feel, right up until I heard him telling his coworkers he could dump me anytime because I was useless to him. Brittany's face went white. He said what? You didn't know? Nathan told his entire department that I was worthless, that he was only staying married to me until he could figure out how to leave without losing money in a divorce. He said you were smarter, prettier, and more fun than me. That's not? He told me he loved you but wasn't in love with you anymore. He said you'd grown apart naturally and… Brittany, stop. I held up my hand. I don't care what lies Nathan told you. I don't care how he manipulated you or what you thought was happening. You knew he was married. You knew money was appearing in his accounts that didn't match his salary. You chose to ask no questions and enjoy the benefits. She was crying openly now. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my apartment. Everyone thinks I'm a criminal. You are a criminal. But I was a victim too. Nathan manipulated me just like he manipulated you. I stood up from my desk. Brittany, there's a very important difference between us. Nathan lied to me, but he never asked me to help him commit crimes. He never asked me to hide stolen money or create fake documents or lie to prosecutors. You made those choices yourself. I was in love with him. So was I. But when I found out what he was really like, I turned him in to the authorities. When you found out what he was really like, you helped him try to get away with it. I walked to my office door and opened it. James? Could you please call security? Ms. Brooks is leaving now. Amara, please? Brittany begged. I have nowhere else to turn. My own family won't speak to me. I have no money, no job, no friends. If I go to prison, I'll have nothing left when I get out. You should have thought about that before you decided to steal money and destroy other people's lives. Security arrived and politely but firmly escorted Brittany out of the building. I watched from my office window as she walked to a beat-up old car that looked like it barely ran. Part of me almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the emails I'd found between her and Nathan, making fun of me for being naive enough to believe anything. I remembered the receipts for romantic trips they'd taken with stolen money while I was home alone, believing my husband was working late to build our future. I remembered Nathan's handwritten plan to divorce Amara, make sure she can't get alimony, while he started over with Brittany in Florida. Brittany had made her choices. Now she could live with the consequences. That evening, I called Jennifer to report Brittany's visit. She violated the restraining order by approaching you directly, Jennifer said. I can have her arrested if you want to press charges. No, I said. She's pathetic enough already. But I wanted documented that she tried to contact me in case she does it again. Absolutely. Also, Amara, I have some good news. The federal prosecutors recovered the $50,000 from that safety deposit box Brittany mentioned. Since Nathan opened it with stolen money, it's considered part of the restitution you're owed. How did they find it without Brittany's help? Bank records. Once they had access to Nathan's financial history, they could trace every account and safety deposit box he'd opened. Turns out Brittany's valuable information wasn't so valuable after all. I hung up the phone and smiled. Nathan had always told me I wasn't smart enough to understand how money and business worked. But I'd been smart enough to gather the evidence that put him in prison. I'd been smart enough to hire a good lawyer and protect my financial interests. And I'd been smart enough to recognize Brittany's manipulation attempt for exactly what it was. The best part was that I didn't need either of them anymore. I had a great job, my own money, and a bright future that had nothing to do with the toxic people who tried to destroy my life. Justice wasn't just about punishment. Justice was about good people being free to live good lives without interference from people who chose to be destructive. Nathan was in prison where he belonged. Brittany was facing her own consequences. And I was exactly where I deserved to be: successful, independent, and finally free. 6 months had passed since the divorce was finalized, and my life looked nothing like the one I'd shared with Nathan. I was sitting in my new office at Creative Solutions, not just any office, but the corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows that I'd earned by bringing in 3 major clients. "Knock knock," said James, my boss, appearing in the doorway with a huge smile. "Do you have a minute to talk about something exciting?" "Sure, what's up?" "I just got off the phone with Morrison and Associates. They want to offer you a partnership track position with them, along with the opportunity to head up their new digital marketing division." I set down my coffee cup, stunned. Morrison and Associates was one of the most prestigious design firms in the state. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. They've been watching your work since you landed the Riverside Shopping Center account. The salary they're offering is..." He handed me a folded piece of paper. When I saw the number, my hands started shaking. It was more money than Nathan and I had ever made combined, even when he was stealing from his company. "James, this is incredible, but I don't want to leave you hanging here. Creative Solutions gave me a chance when I needed it most. Amara, this is exactly why I hired you. I knew you had the talent to outgrow this place eventually. You'd be crazy not to take this opportunity." That afternoon, I drove to the address Morrison and Associates had sent me for our meeting. The building was sleek glass and steel, the kind of place I used to think was out of my league. The meeting was with Catherine Morrison herself, the founder and CEO of the company. She was a woman in her 50s with silver hair and the kind of confident energy I was still learning to project. "Amara, I'm going to be direct with you," she said after we'd exchanged pleasantries. "We don't usually hire people straight into partnership track positions. But your portfolio speaks for itself, and frankly, we need someone with your vision and work ethic." "What would my responsibilities be?" "You'd oversee our expansion into digital marketing and social media strategy. You'd have your own team, your own clients, and significant input into the company's future direction. Think of it as running your own business within our larger structure." It was everything I'd dreamed about before Nathan convinced me those dreams were unrealistic. "There's one more thing," Catherine added. "We'd like you to consider relocating to our new satellite office in San Diego. It's a ground floor opportunity to build something completely new." San Diego. Sunshine, beaches, and 3,000 miles away from Nathan, his family, and anyone who knew about the mess my life had been. "When would you need an answer?" "Take your time. This is a big decision. But I hope you'll seriously consider it. Women like us need to stick together and build each other up." On the drive home, I called Denise to tell her about the offer. "Girl, are you kidding me right now?" she screamed into the phone. "This is amazing. You're going to take it, right? I don't know. It means leaving everything familiar behind and starting over completely. Amara, what exactly are you leaving behind? A house full of memories of Nathan's lies? A town where everyone knows your business? The chance to run into his family members at the grocery store? She had a point. Besides, Denise continued, you've already started over. You're not the same person you were a year ago. You're stronger, more confident, more successful. This job offer is just the universe recognizing what you've become. That evening, I sat in my backyard with a glass of wine and my laptop, researching San Diego. Beautiful weather year-round. A thriving arts and business community. Beach access. And most importantly, a place where I could be just Amara, not the woman whose husband embezzled money, or Nathan Collins' ex-wife. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Hi Amara, this is Rebecca, Nathan's sister. I know you probably don't want to hear from our family, but I wanted to tell you that I think you're handling everything with incredible grace. Nathan was wrong about you in every way. I hope you're happy and successful in your new life. It was the first message from Nathan's family that wasn't asking me to forgive him or help him in some way. I was so surprised that I actually texted her back. Thank you, Rebecca. That means a lot. She responded immediately. For what it's worth, our whole family knows Nathan destroyed the best thing that ever happened to him. We're all rooting for you. I set the phone aside and looked up at the stars. A year ago, I'd been a woman who thought she wasn't smart enough to handle her own finances, wasn't talented enough to have a real career, wasn't strong enough to survive without a husband who was systematically lying to her. Now I was being offered a partnership at a major firm and the chance to relocate to one of the most beautiful cities in the country. Nathan had tried to make me believe I was nothing without him. Instead, he'd given me the motivation to discover who I really was. The next morning, I called Catherine Morrison. I'd like to accept your offer, I said. When do I start? How does next month sound? We'll handle all the relocation expenses, of course. Perfect. And Catherine? Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for proving I was right too. As I hung up the phone, I realized I was smiling so hard my face hurt. For the first time in years, I was excited about my future instead of anxious about it. Nathan was still in prison, serving his time and probably still believing he was the victim of unfair circumstances. Brittany was working at a fast food restaurant, trying to save money for her legal fees. And I was packing for San Diego, getting ready to start the next chapter of a life that was entirely my own creation. The best revenge really was living well. But the best part wasn't the revenge, it was the living. The morning I was scheduled to leave for San Diego, I decided to stop by the coffee shop where Melissa and I used to meet. It felt like the right place to say goodbye to this chapter of my life. The barista, a college student named Tyler who'd been working there since before my marriage fell apart, smiled when he saw me. The usual? He asked. Actually, make it a celebration drink, I said. Whatever's most expensive and delicious. Big day. New job, new city, new life. Good for you. You deserve all the good things. As I waited for my drink, I noticed an older woman sitting alone at a corner table, staring at me with a mix of recognition and uncertainty. When our eyes met, she stood up and walked over. It was Nathan's mother, Patricia. My first instinct was to leave immediately, but something in her expression stopped me. She looked smaller than I remembered, and there was genuine sadness in her eyes. Amara, I'm so sorry to bother you, she said quietly. I know you probably don't want to see anyone from our family. Mrs. Collins, if you're here to ask me to visit Nathan or help him in any way. No, she interrupted. I'm here to apologize. I was so surprised I didn't know what to say. May I sit with you for just a moment? She asked. Please? Against my better judgment, I nodded toward the empty chair across from me. Amara, I need you to know that I was wrong about you, Patricia began. From the very beginning, I was wrong. I thought you weren't good enough for Nathan, that you were too simple, too ordinary for my successful son. She paused, her hands trembling slightly as she wrapped them around her coffee cup. But you weren't the problem. Nathan was. And I should have seen it years ago. Mrs. Collins, you don't need to. Yes, I do, she said firmly. I raised a man who thought he could lie and cheat and steal without consequences. I raised a man who thought women were there to serve him and support him without question. I failed as a mother, and you paid the price for my failure. I could see tears forming in her eyes. I've been thinking about this every day since Nathan was arrested, she continued. All those times you tried to be kind to me, tried to include me in your lives, tried to make our family gatherings pleasant. And I was cold to you because I thought you weren't sophisticated enough for us. Mrs. Collins. Patricia. Please call me Patricia. Patricia, I appreciate you saying this, but Nathan made his own choices. You can't blame yourself for everything he did. But I can blame myself for not seeing what kind of man he really was. And I can blame myself for not appreciating the good woman he married. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. I wanted to give you this, she said, sliding it across the table. It's not much and it doesn't fix anything, but I wanted you to have it. Inside the envelope was a check for $5,000 and a handwritten note that said, "For the fresh start you deserve. I'm proud of the strength you've shown, and I'm sorry it took me so long to see who you really are. Patricia, I can't accept this." Yes, you can. Nathan stole so much from you: money, time, confidence, peace of mind. This doesn't replace any of that, but it's my way of saying that his family doesn't all think you deserved what he did to you. We sat in silence for a moment, and I found myself feeling something I never expected to feel toward Nathan's mother. Genuine warmth. "Can I ask you something?" I said finally. "Of course. Did you know? About the affair, about the stealing?" Patricia closed her eyes. I suspected something was wrong. Nathan was always secretive about money, always had excuses for why you couldn't join us for family trips or expensive dinners. He'd make comments about how you wouldn't understand business discussions or financial planning. But you didn't know he was stealing? No, I didn't know about the criminal activity. But I knew he didn't respect you the way a husband should respect his wife. And I'm ashamed to say that I thought that was normal, that wives were supposed to defer to their husbands in all things. What changed your mind? Seeing how you handled everything after his arrest. The way you rebuilt your life, the way you refused to let him manipulate you even from prison, the way you carried yourself with such dignity through the whole mess. I realized that you weren't the weak woman I'd thought you were. You were the strong woman Nathan had been trying to tear down. Tyler called my name. My coffee was ready. As I got up to collect it, Patricia stood too. "Amara, I know this doesn't change anything and I know you don't owe me anything. But I want you to know that I'm proud of you. And if you ever want to stay in touch, I'd like that very much." "Patricia, can I ask you one more thing?" "Anything." "Do you think Nathan will ever understand what he really did? Not just the stealing, but the way he treated me, the way he tried to control and diminish me?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Honestly, I don't think he's capable of that kind of self-reflection. Nathan has always been very good at making himself the victim in every story. Even now, he writes letters to family members complaining about how unfairly he's being treated, how the system is rigged against him." "He doesn't mention me?" "Oh, he mentions you. He talks about how you turned against him when he needed you most. How you chose revenge over love. He still doesn't understand that there was no love left to choose." I nodded. That sounded exactly like Nathan. "But Amara," Patricia continued, "the rest of us understand. Rebecca, Michael, even Nathan's father, we all know that you were the best thing that ever happened to him, and he destroyed it through his own selfishness and arrogance." As we walked toward the coffee shop exit together, Patricia turned to me one last time. "I heard through Rebecca that you got a wonderful new job opportunity in California. San Diego. I'm actually leaving today." "Good for you. I hope it's everything you want it to be." "Thank you, Patricia. And thank you for this conversation. It means more than you know. Take care of yourself, Amara. You deserve all the happiness in the world." As I drove away from the coffee shop toward my new life in San Diego, I found myself thinking about forgiveness. Not forgiveness for Nathan, he'd have to earn that through genuine change and accountability, which seemed unlikely. But forgiveness for the people who'd been influenced by his manipulation, who'd believed his version of reality because they trusted him. Patricia's apology didn't erase the years of cold treatment and subtle put-downs. But it showed me that even people who'd been wrong about me could grow and change when confronted with the truth. More importantly, it showed me that my worth wasn't determined by other people's opinions of me. I was successful, strong, and happy because of who I'd chosen to become, not because Nathan's family had finally recognized my value. The best revenge wasn't making them sorry they'd underestimated me. The best revenge was becoming someone who didn't need their approval to know my own worth. As I merged onto the highway toward my new life, I felt lighter than I had in years. Behind me was everything that had held me back. Ahead of me was everything I was capable of becoming. 1 year later, I was standing on the balcony of my San Diego apartment, watching the sunset paint the Pacific Ocean in shades of orange and pink. My phone buzzed with notifications, congratulatory messages about the feature article in Design Weekly magazine that had just gone live. Rising Star, Amara Johnson's Journey from Victim to Visionary, read the headline, above a photo of me in my new corner office at Morrison & Associates. The article talked about my rapid rise in the company, the innovative campaigns I'd developed, and the new digital marketing division I was building from the ground up. What it didn't mention because I'd chosen not to discuss it with the reporter was the divorce, the embezzlement, or the betrayal that had started this journey. I wasn't running from that part of my story anymore, but I wasn't defined by it either. My phone rang. It was Catherine Morrison. "Amara, have you seen the magazine yet?" "Just finished reading it. Thank you for the amazing quote about my work." Every word was true. "Listen, I'm calling because we just got a request from the National Marketing Association. They want you to be the keynote speaker at their conference in Las Vegas next month." "Me? Are you sure?" "They specifically asked for you. Apparently, several companies have been trying to recruit you based on your recent work, and word is spreading about your innovative approach to integrated marketing campaigns." After we hung up, I walked inside to my home office, a beautiful space with natural light and a view of the ocean that I'd designed myself. On my desk was a folder of documents my lawyer had forwarded to me. Nathan's restitution payments, which arrived every month like clockwork, automatically deposited into an account I was using to fund a scholarship program for women returning to the workforce after difficult divorces. There was also a letter that had been forwarded from my old address. The return address showed it was from Nathan. I'd received 3 letters from him over the past year. I'd thrown away the first 2 without opening them, but curiosity finally got the better of me with this one. "Dear Amara," it began. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I've been doing a lot of thinking in here, and I realize I owe you a real apology." I rolled my eyes and kept reading. "I know what I did was wrong and I know I hurt you. I've been going to therapy, they require it here, and my counselor says I need to take responsibility for my actions without making excuses. So far so good. But then, I think we both made mistakes in our marriage. I should have been more honest with you about the financial pressure I was under, and maybe you should have been more involved in understanding our money situation. If we'd communicated better, maybe none of this would have happened." There it was. Even in his apology, Nathan was still trying to make my alleged failures partially responsible for his criminal behavior. The letter continued, "I've changed a lot in here, Amara. I'm not the same man I was when I made those terrible decisions. When I get out, I'd like the chance to show you who I've become. I'm not asking you to take me back right away, but maybe we could start over as friends and see what happens." I laughed out loud. Nathan still believed, after everything, that I would eventually come back to him. He still thought my independence and success were temporary rebellions that would end when I realized I needed him. I walked to my paper shredder and fed the letter through it, watching Nathan's words turn into confetti. My doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I looked through the peephole, I saw a delivery man with a huge bouquet of flowers. The card read, "Congratulations on the magazine feature. So proud of you. Julian." Julian was the architect I'd been dating for the past 6 months. We'd met at a professional networking event, and he'd asked me out 3 times before I finally said yes. I'd been cautious about dating again, but Julian was everything Nathan wasn't: honest, supportive of my career, and genuinely interested in my thoughts and opinions. He knew about my divorce and Nathan's crimes, but he'd never made me feel like damaged goods or treated me like I needed to be rescued. Instead, he admired my strength and independence. My phone buzzed with a text from him. "Dinner at 8? I made reservations at that new place you wanted to try." I texted back, "Perfect. Thank you for the flowers. Thank you for being amazing." As I got ready for dinner, I thought about how different my life looked now compared to a year ago. I had a job I loved, an apartment that was entirely my own, friends who respected and supported me, and the beginning of what might be a healthy romantic relationship with someone who saw me as an equal partner. Most importantly, I had myself back. The confident, creative, ambitious woman I'd been before Nathan convinced me I was too ordinary to dream big. At dinner, Julian and I talked about the magazine article, his latest architectural project, and our plans for a weekend trip to wine country. He listened to my ideas with genuine interest and offered thoughtful feedback. He celebrated my successes without feeling threatened by them. "Can I tell you something?" he said as we shared dessert. "When I first met you, I was intimidated." "Intimidated? By me?" "You had this energy, this confidence. You knew exactly what you wanted and you weren't afraid to go after it. I'd never met anyone who'd rebuilt their entire life from scratch and came out stronger on the other side. Julian, I wasn't confident when we met. I was terrified most of the time. Maybe on the inside, but on the outside, you were this incredible woman who'd started over in a new city, excelled at a demanding job, and carried herself like she could handle anything. That's not terrifying, that's inspiring. As we walked back to my apartment building, I realized that Julian was right. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped pretending to be confident and actually become confident. I'd stopped trying to prove I was strong and actually become strong. The next morning, I woke up to find 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Something had happened. The first call I returned was to my sister Denise. "Amara, thank God you're okay," she said immediately. "Have you seen the news?" "What news?" "What's wrong?" "It's about Nathan. There was an incident at the prison." My stomach dropped. "What kind of incident?" "He got into a fight with another inmate. He's in the hospital, but he's going to be okay. The thing is, apparently he started the fight because the other guy was making comments about the magazine article. About you." I sat down hard on my couch. "Someone in prison saw the magazine article?" "One of the other inmates had a copy, and when Nathan saw your picture and read about your success, he went ballistic. Started screaming about how you destroyed his life, how you turned everyone against him. The other guy said something about how Nathan was lucky you didn't press more charges, and Nathan attacked him." "So he's okay?" "Physically, yes. But Amara, his lawyer called me because they couldn't reach you. Nathan's actions have consequences. Fighting in prison means his sentence could be extended, and his parole eligibility just got pushed back by at least 2 years. I should have felt something: worry, sadness, maybe even satisfaction. Instead, I felt nothing at all. Nathan's problems were no longer my problems." "Denise, why did his lawyer call you instead of his family?" "That's the thing. Apparently, Nathan has been telling people in prison that you two are still in contact, that you're waiting for him to get out so you can reconcile. His family finally told his lawyer the truth, that you've moved on completely and want nothing to do with him." "Good. I'm glad they finally stopped enabling his delusions." "There's more. The prison psychologist wants to put Nathan on suicide watch. Apparently, seeing proof of your success and happiness triggered some kind of breakdown. He's been telling everyone who'll listen that his life is over, that he has nothing left to live for." I felt a flicker of the old guilt, the old instinct to worry about Nathan's well-being even after everything he'd done to me. But it passed quickly. "Denise, I'm not responsible for Nathan's mental health. I'm not responsible for his choices or his consequences. If he needs help, the prison system will provide it. But it's not my job to manage his emotions or fix his problems anymore." "I know that. I just wanted you to be prepared in case his lawyer or his family tries to contact you. They can contact me all they want. The answer will be the same: no." That afternoon, I was in the middle of a client presentation when my assistant knocked on the conference room door. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said, "but there's someone on the phone who says it's urgent." "A Rebecca Collins?" "Nathan's sister." I excused myself from the meeting and took the call in my office. "Amara, I'm so sorry to bother you at work," Rebecca said immediately. "I know you don't want to be involved in Nathan's situation, but I didn't know who else to call." "Rebecca, if this is about the fight at the prison, I already know. And if you're calling to ask me to visit him or help him in any way, the answer is no. It's not that. It's about what Nathan is telling people." "What do you mean?" "He's created this whole fantasy about you and him. He's telling other inmates that you're his business partner, that the success you're having is actually from ideas he gave you before he was arrested. He's claiming that you've been writing to him regularly and that you're planning to start a company together when he gets out." I felt anger rising in my chest. Even from prison, Nathan was still trying to take credit for my accomplishments. "Rebecca, I haven't written to Nathan once. I haven't spoken to him since the divorce was finalized. I threw away his letters without reading them, and I want absolutely nothing to do with him now or ever." "I know that. We all know that. But Nathan is living in this delusion, and when reality crashes in, like when he saw the magazine article, he becomes violent and unstable. That's not my problem, Rebecca." "I know it's not. But Amara, I'm worried he's going to hurt someone. And I'm worried that when he gets out, whenever that is, he's going to try to find you." The thought sent a chill down my spine. Nathan had always been controlling and manipulative, but I'd never thought of him as physically dangerous. Prison might have changed that. "Rebecca, if Nathan contacts me or tries to find me when he gets out, I'll call the police immediately. There's already a restraining order in place." "Good. And Amara? For what it's worth, we're all incredibly proud of what you've accomplished. You deserved so much better than what Nathan gave you." After we hung up, I sat in my office for a long time thinking about the conversation. Part of me wanted to be angry that Nathan was still trying to insert himself into my narrative, still trying to claim ownership over my success. But mostly I felt pity for him. He was so unable to accept responsibility for his own failures that he had to create an elaborate fantasy where I was still part of his life, still contributing to his story. The truth was simpler and sadder. Nathan had lost everything because of his own choices, and I had gained everything because of mine. That evening, Julian and I were cooking dinner together in my kitchen when I told him about the calls from Denise and Rebecca. "How are you feeling about all of this?" he asked, chopping vegetables while I seasoned the chicken. "Honestly? Free. Nathan can create whatever stories he needs to tell himself to get through prison. But his stories don't have anything to do with my reality. And if he tries to contact you when he gets out, then I'll handle it the same way I've handled everything else, by protecting myself and moving forward with my life." Julian stopped chopping and looked at me seriously. "Amara, you know I'll support you however you need to handle this, right? You're not alone in this anymore." "I know. But Julian, I need you to understand something important. I don't need you to rescue me or protect me from Nathan. I've already rescued myself. I've already protected myself. What I need is a partner who respects that I'm capable of handling my own problems." He smiled and kissed my forehead. "That's exactly why I'm crazy about you." Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, I got a text from an unknown number. "Miss Johnson, this is Dr. Martinez, the psychologist at Federal Correctional Institution where Nathan Collins is housed. I understand you were formerly married to Mr. Collins. He's asked me to contact you regarding his treatment plan. Could you please call me at your earliest convenience?" I screenshotted the message and forwarded it to Jennifer, my lawyer, with a note: "Please handle this. I do not want any contact with Nathan or anyone representing him." She texted back immediately, "On it. You don't have to engage with this at all." As I turned off the lights and settled into bed, I realized that this was what victory looked like. Not anger or revenge or the satisfaction of seeing Nathan suffer. Victory was being able to hear about his problems and feel completely detached from them. Victory was building a life so full and rich and satisfying that my ex-husband's delusions couldn't touch it. Victory was knowing with absolute certainty that I was exactly where I belonged, with exactly the life I'd created for myself. Nathan thought the perfect revenge would be me coming back to him, acknowledging that I couldn't make it without him, admitting that he'd been right about my limitations. But the perfect revenge was simpler than that. The perfect revenge was living so well, so successfully, so completely without him that his absence from my life wasn't a loss, it was a gift. Tomorrow I would wake up in my beautiful apartment, go to my dream job, work on projects that challenged and excited me, and come home to a relationship built on mutual respect and genuine partnership. Nathan would wake up in a prison cell, facing additional time for his violent behavior, living in fantasies about a woman who had moved on so completely that his very existence was irrelevant to her happiness. That was the perfect revenge, not needing revenge at all.
I hope you enjoyed today's story and connected with its message. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps this community grow and keeps these stories alive. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you the next time.